she's now stage 2 from stage 4. So they were saying, you're never going backwards, right? You're in stage 4. Your next step is we find somebody to donate to you, and now she's stage 2.
Kevin, how did you find Carnivore?
Yeah, well, Dave, it was a couple years ago. My son actually, uh, he had like 3% body fat, and he saw Joe Rogan or something, and he wants to go carnivore, and he and at first I thought that is crazy, and I'm sure anybody from the outside looking in, they just think it's crazy. And he was going to do it, and he did it for about 3 weeks. And he started running into the typical issues that those of us that have gone through the process, we understand. There's certain thresholds you come to, different experiences you're making. Your electrolytes are difficult to balance at first. It's all new. You kind of have in the back of your head, is this the thing I should be doing? And he got to those points, and just thought, oh, okay, I'm gonna go back. And he's young, 27 at the time, and so he is the one that introduced it to me. And then a little bit of time went by, and I was in the process of getting into the yo-yo diet, right? Where I had always been athletic, and I was a working arborist for much of my career. I actually won the Wisconsin tree climbing championship back in 2000 and 2001, and then I climbing arborist all through the years. And so I'd always been fit, and I had an occupation that was essentially an industrial athlete, and all of a sudden I started creeping up. And it was probably, I think it was 2017, I had hit 250 pounds, and that was my high. And I did a standard restriction diet of restricting calories, and I got down all the way to 210. And then I bounced back up, and I was tapping on the door of 240, again. And I wafted there a couple of times, and I was sitting at about mid 230s. And I said, I'm going to try this carnivore thing, that Taylor did. And I started, tapping into I had a sister-in-law and a brother-in-law that were keto. And I'd heard she was a carnivore for a period of time because she was in the process of reversing her liver disease that she had gotten, via medication. And they were saying she was on the list for a liver transplant, and she's now stage 2 from stage 4. So they were saying, you're never going backwards, right? You're in stage 4. Your next step is we find somebody to donate to you, and now she's stage 2. And so she had seen so I had some inter-family, support. That was kind of the people I went to ask questions and different things. And she happens to be a career nurse. So she's not just someone, reversing her liver disease. She knows the ins and outs. And so, um, I thought, well, 30 days, right? That's what they all say. I tapped into Dr. Barry, and I saw Dr. Chafee, and all Dr. Baker, all of them, and I was listening to just about everything I could. And so I was getting very informed. So I kind of knew the things I was going to experience. And by the time I got to 30 days, I said, okay, I'm going to do 60, and by the time I got to 45, I'm going for 90. And I'd set a doctor's appointment for, I think it was August 29th of, what would it have been? 20 well last year. Yeah, a year ago August, I had a doctor appointment, and that was going to be just after the 90 days. And so it was a good, mental target. And I figured my doctor was probably more mainstream and wasn't really going to be, into this. But, I had that appointment and I was feeling great. I was down. I think at that time I was uh, 220 or less at that appointment. And my LDL came in at like 286. And, that was astronomically high. And, if I'd have known at the time, just wait till I get going would have been my response. Because as it turned out, as I approached that 210 threshold, lean mass hyperresponder was where I was going to fall. And I had I think 90 days later, it was I think my peak was about a 429 LDL uh, on the labs, and my triglycerides were down in the 50s, and my HDL was 129, which was, pretty extremely high for a male, from what I gather in the podcast and stuff. And so, uh, definitely a huge ratio. I went from like a 2-to-1 triglycerides to HDL ratio to the exact opposite, like a point 0.5 to, you know,
So,
one.
is your doctor having conniptions at the moment? These
Oh
numbers?
yeah, she was going to fire me. I started cataloging this. I run a YouTube channel, Game of Trees, which is just us doing arborist stuff. And I had a personal, Google page that I thought, well, that I kind of had tree stuff on there as well, but I thought, well, why don't I catalog my carnivore and keto experience there, just so I have a running record. And so that's up. It's the Ageless Arborist, and I'm kind of putting videos here and just casually. I mean, we post a lot on my main channel, but uh, I just thought I want for my own personal, catalog, a little history of what I'm doing. And so one of the kind of drama videos was my doctor's going to fire me, and literally she was. And because, and, I mean, she shared her real emotion. She's just like, well, you know, it feels like you're just going to use me for labs, and you're not really taking any of my advice. And I mean, that's a real emotion. I can relate with that. I'm a board certified master arborist. When I tell somebody something about their tree and they don't listen to me, I could take offense to that. And so I could understand where she was coming from. But I also I kind of through my career, ups and downs. We went through the 2008 recession, and I had a lot of experience in life where, I was fighting out of a tough situation without bankruptcy, and you develop different values and things through that fray. Sometimes it's the hard things in life that teach us something. And so, I've arrived at, you know I exist to set people free to a more abundant life, and that might be in any number of venues. And so, just when I get in a situation like this, I'm like, well, I want to bring my doctor along. I think there's a lot of, like Dr. Westman, where he said it was one of his patients that, like, just, well, measure me, the lab's down the hall, and kind of like, hey doctor, come on, come with me, and so I thought, I would like to stick with my general practitioner and bring her along, and everyone will be better for it. And uh, so far so good. She said that the deal was initially you have to take a referral to a cardiologist. So I was asking for a CT angiogram. I said, well, if you think I'm going to die next week, with this LDL, then let's get a picture. And my grandfathers died, earlier than, one. I'm 59, and I had one grandfather, my mother's father, die at 53. So I'm already past where he had a heart attack. And so I went to the cardiologist, and same thing, and wouldn't give me the angiogram. Wanted to give me medication, and my answer was, well, if I stay fat adapted, and because I was well versed in the lipid energy model that Dave Feldman is promoting, and it logically makes sense in my head that my energy is being carried around my body on these boats. And there's just naturally going to be more boats. And I did the various carbohydrates tests. I was a sourdough maker before I became a carnivore. you know and I still make some sourdough for the family, and my daughter happens to be a type 1 diabetic, and she knows exactly how many carbs are in my recipe of sourdough. So I know that 100 grams by weight of my bread is 49 grams of carbohydrates. And so I did the Oreo cookie experiment with sourdough bread, and I brought my LDL. In fact, I did that right before my cardiologist appointment. So the labs my cardiologist got were before the test, and the labs I carried physically into the appointment with me so that I could drop them on her once she told me, that I needed a statin or some equivalent to bring down my LDL. I said, well, here, this is 6 days later. It was 6 days after the lab she had, and my LDL was, over 100, like 120 points lower.
It dropped
And
120 points in six
in six
days
six days.
just by including sourdough bread.
Yeah, and I did 200 grams of sourdough bread. So I probably took myself out of ketosis. Except I did the ketone thing. I was trying to take some ketones to try to stay in, but um, yeah, it dropped it right back down, but interestingly, and it's probably, the Randall effect has been talked about by a lot of people. That bread probably went straight to fat stores, because I was fat adapted, and probably the first few days of eating that bread, I mean, I was up, um, I think 6 pounds when I went in. So 6 days and 6 pounds. So it definitely was just, hey, we don't need this bread. Boom, store it, or whatever my body was doing. But the LDL did come down, and and
And
so
what
I
was the reaction from the cardiologist?
yeah, she was, somewhat surprised. She hadn't read up on the LMHR yet or anything, and so it's like, oh well, well, then talk to the dietitian, and let's adjust you to dietarily bring it down, and but my statement to her was, if you pharmacologically lower my LDL but I stay fat adapted, I said, what kind of side effects am I going to feel in energy? Or, if you take away my energy carrier artificially, but that's what I'm forcing, Now am I going to see a physical response from that? And so I wasn't comfortable doing that, and this lifestyle just so fits me. If I do a lot of sales now for my company and stuff. I'm not working in the trees every day. I exercise every day, but when I do work, uh, I eat a half pound of hamburger and 6 eggs in the morning, and I climb all day. I mean, I make jokes with the guys. Yeah, you poor lunchers, you got to take lunch. You know, you guys stagger your lunch. I'm staying in the tree. Just stagger your lunch, and we'll just keep this operation going. And so it's very convenient, as an owner operator, business owner in a physical world, to just not have to worry. And there's no hunger signal all day. If as long as I'm drinking good electrolyte water, I can vigorously climb all day and never stop.
I love
Yeah.
that. You lunches.
Yeah, you lunchers. Yeah, I let them have it. It's like, yeah, it's too bad you guys have to slow down. You get the shakes, I mean, that is one of the most uh rewarding benefits, I think, is just that you're not thinking about food all the time. The headspace, thinking about food. It's interesting when I first started the process, what am I going to do for snacks? Because you're thinking, how am I going to solve the snack problem? And, I bought some of the the beef tallow, pork rinds, and they're sitting in a box in my pantry. Like, I forget about them. I don't think about them, and I bring them out at holidays, and some other people eat them. It's like I'm not a snacker now.
Yeah. It's so nice not to be tied to the kitchen, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so that's and the other thing they talk about is the fiber, right? And in my most recent doctor's appointment, my LDL now is kind of stabilized around, 340, 350. Yeah, which is, to the doctor, it's just crazy. um, and, you know, they talk about the fiber. I'm like, well, if you're eating carbs, fiber serves a role. It slows things down to the liver. But if I'm not eating a bunch of carbs, I said that fiber is just, it's making me have to use the bathroom in the middle of the day when I want to climb, and since adopting this lifestyle, you're probably every 3 days, maybe 4 days, and it's like I can see why, Attila the Hun probably had ketogenic as a as a form for his army, because it's pretty practical in a physical world to not have to have those moments of urgency, and that fiber is one of the things that causes that. And so I don't miss my fiber at all. I'm not 100% carnivore. I'm probably, to get into what I actually eat, I mean, hamburger and eggs, scrambled together, that's often what I do. I was doing eating every 12 hours, breakfast and supper. I'm kind of morphing into the the intermittent fasting, and I would always fast for 24 hours from Wednesday night to Thursday night. I kind of do that every week. And just listening to the fasting space, um, there was one particular podcast that I heard that, consistent, 24-hour fast, like once a week, you could have as much autophagy as somebody doing the big 3-day fasts. And a 3-day fast just doesn't really interest me. There is a point where a hunger signal kicks in a little bit. And that 24-hour fast is just a real good, and it's a great reset. Like, something may happen in the week or something, or, one of my 7 grandchildren has a birthday party or something. And I've never had an issue of, oh, I'm off the wagon or anything like that. It's just like, okay, maybe, and literally, I don't think I've had a full piece of anything, you know, outside like a piece of cake or something. It's always been just a small portion. But at any rate, that Thursday fast is just a reset. It's a weekly reset. And when I was doing my little experiments with the bread and stuff, uh, it it's just a great reset. You take that 24 hours and also you're just back in it. And it appears that my body, I don't lose, ketosis fat adaptation fast. It didn't seem like, some people say, oh man, I had a banana, it threw me out of ketosis for 2 weeks. I don't have that experience. If I did 6 days of 200 grams of carbs, and on day 7, I just I went back to what I was doing, and there was just no real adjustment period or anything. So uh, I seem to be fairly stable in the fat adaptation, and I'm not testing ketones or anything, but you can just sort of tell if you're
Yeah.
on what you're running on.
So it's been nearly a year and a half, right?
Yeah, I'm coming up June 4th, so September 4th was 15 months, I think. So I'm coming
Right.
up on 16 months here.
Right. So in that time, like you've lost some weight, and what other things have changed for you?
Oh, the joint pain. I had my right knee was kind of glitching. Everyone, I think I probably had a meniscus tear, or something. It was kind of popping, and every once in a while it would glitch on me. And I think I'm growing new cartilage. I They call me crazy, but like that knee is stable, and I think the last time I injured it, I was removing a tree. I was on spurs, and you got a potential knee injury when you're on spurs, and my knee, the inflammation in my knee caused, if I hyper, close my knee joint like this, that would get really tight in there. And what happened is my left spur gaffed out, and all of my weight went down on my right leg, and my range of motion closed completely with my entire force. And really, it was I was on a cane for a few days. And so that has completely recovered, and now I can really pull my knee all the way up and do, stretching or whatever, and I'm not getting that tight feeling like something some piece of cartilage is going to pop out the side.
Y- Yeah, it's funny to see you do that because when you pull your leg up like that, I actually get a twinge of ow because I had it in my left knee and I couldn't do
Okay.
that without pain.
Yeah.
But now it's fine. I can do it. But yeah, I
Yeah.
still kind of when I see someone doing that, I'm
Yeah.
still like,
you,
"Ah,"
you,
I
you
get
have
that feeling.
a muscle or a mental memory of that feeling. Yeah, and my right elbow had a issue that has not occurred. So I do a lot of pull up type exercises and stuff that assist climbing, and my right elbow would jam up every once in a while, and I haven't had that happen. So that type of inflammation is just way down. My C reactive protein is like, point 0.5, or less sometimes. And so inflammation seems to be way down.
That's awesome. So, has your son been persuaded at all to give it another try?
He's been on again, off again on keto, and it's he's young still, and they actually they're renovating their duplex, and so we've got them in our house right now. So I'm in close proximity with them, and um, he's uh he's been just kind of on again, off again of keto. Now he just spent a week hunting out in Wyoming, so we'll see how he comes back from that trip. He may be on
Oh,
again.
cool. Yeah. Nice. So when you're working with the lunges, have they ever kind of said to you, well, you know, maybe we want to give this a try?
Yeah, in fact, one of my guys has lost a number of pounds, and I'd call him dirty keto. you know, his wife bakes a lot of things, and but he's dropped his weight way down, and is keto more often than he's not. So yeah, there has been an influence, and some another big YouTuber, guilty of treason. He's got over 1 million followers, and I've collabed with him, uh, with trees. He's out in Seattle, and he's on. He just sent me a text. I'm over 30 days carnivore right now, and so he's back on. He was. I went out to visit him and do some videos a year ago in December, and he was keto at that time, and then fell off. And he's younger. He's like 30, young 30s. But now he's back on. I mean, and it's interesting, the benefits that people have, and I'm kind of grateful. I don't have uh, that. Oh, I'm falling off the wagon, or this huge desire to binge or anything. But I think, at age 59, I want to I want to keep doing what I'm doing. And I my yeah, my other channel I call the Ageless Arborist. And that's facetious, of course. It's going to some old guys follow me, on YouTube and comment a lot. And there's this 75-year-old guy. He's has spurs, will climb is his handle, on YouTube. And he's not keto at all, and he's doing fine. It's kind of like the guy smoking at 90. You go, I don't know what this smoking thing is, and he's like, I love my banana cream pie, and they all tell me that age is coming, but right now I'm feeling strong, and I want to continue to feel strong. And if I'm building this personality brand, basically, to be a 75-year-old arborist. I think of the story in the Old Testament of Caleb, where he's talking with Joshua, and he says, remember when Moses sent us in, and the 10 spies said, no, the giants are big, and he says, I've remained faithful the whole time. He says, that was 40 years ago, and now I'm 85. He says, give me the giants. Send me in there. I'm still as fit as I was then, I am now. I mean, that is the type of inspiration. I'm like, he's 85. I'm thinking he probably lived to 110 at least, maybe more. But at 85, he felt ready to do battle, and so at 85, I'd like to, climb a coastal redwood or something. I go to Guatemala and climb rainforest trees and teach botanists how to get up there, young biology students. And those are 120-foot trees, you're in 95 degrees. And I'd like to do that when I'm when I'm 70, when I'm 80, and be that
The interesting
guy.
interesting thing though is that when you are eating like this and living like this, it feels possible, right?
It does. It really does. It doesn't sound in my mind outlandish, because I know what I've gained. I just did a DEXA scan last week. I'm going in today for the VO2 max and resting metabolic rate. We'll probably do that first, and then a VO2 max. So on just the DEXA scan, I came in at a biological age of 48. So I gained 11 years just getting the scan. So, that climbing trees at 85, that's looking possible to me.
Oh, that's fantastic. This is it for you, clearly. Like there's no going back.
Yeah, I have said that, and you know, even my wife will be facetious, and she's, oh yeah, right. But yeah, I'm not going back, and she hasn't come along with me. She's doing a DEXA scan today, and her numbers are really good. She's got a little bit of elevated LDL. She's probably around 100 carbs a day. She's not. She's 110 pounds. I mean, she's not eating wrongly, and very clean eater, whole foods, and just has really great numbers. Her fasting insulin was 2.6. Mine was 4.2 on keto. And she's a carb eater and was a 2.6 fasting insulin. And so I have a feeling that she's not. And that, just on that note, my general practitioner was not someone that tracked insulin, right? They just follow glucose. And I remember back in our early conversations, she's like, my A1C was creeping up. I had that issue, you know, and it came in at 5.7. She goes, well, look, now you're looking like type 2 diabetes, and so I was giving her ammunition, and I'm like, yeah, but my fasting insulin was on that same test where I had a 5.7. My fasting insulin was like 1.6. It's crazy low. I'm like, how could I possibly be, type 2 diabetic if I'm, that kind of insulin, And and she just kind of looked at me like, like the dog that kind of turns his head sideways, and like, is that real? And so I'm doing my blood work through ownyourlabs.com. And it's just kind of novel. If Dave gets his dream of being able to track that database, that would be neat to see a bunch of data on basically keto people, right? And so I'm utilizing that service, and just I don't even need my doctor to do labs. I buy my labs, and I go to LabCorp and get them done. But Lisa hasn't set that up yet, and so she drew her blood at the doctor, and I didn't really ask for anything specific for her. We do joint doctor appointments. We've been married 38 years, almost, and so we're pretty much together. And so I noticed that they took 4 vials of blood. And I thought, I wonder if she ordered insulin, and we were already had left the office, and then her labs came in, and sure enough, she ordered a fasting insulin. So I must have influenced my doctor just a little. because she took fasting insulin without me asking for it.
Nice. Um, so if you were giving someone advice about how to get started with carnivore, what would you tell them?
Go for the 30 days, and go strict. I for my 30 days, and it actually for the 90 days, I didn't do any artificial sweeteners. Obviously no sugar, nothing. I was beef, butter, bacon, and eggs, and coffee. Okay, I didn't give up my coffee. I'm still toying with that because I my sleep is still not perfect, and there could be, it could be that I edit videos at night instead of reading a book, so I'm doing a little screen time right before I sleep. There could be a number of things, but I would recommend that 30 days hardcore. And I, and it'd be my prediction that when you get to 30, you'll say 60, because you'll feel so many things that are better. And and then don't get scared with the constipation scares. And I did have some constipation at the beginning. I was balancing my fat. I didn't you don't know everything. So, you increase your fat. I made a bunch of ghee, and so I try to, if I need to, I get 70/30 hamburger. People talk about the expensive carnivore. All right, I buy my share of steaks. I'm in a position where I don't have to watch every penny in my life. But 70/30 hamburger, the cheaper stuff is the better stuff. Like, I cook up my 2 pounds of hamburger and I put it in this glass Pyrex and I put it in the fridge. And then in the morning, you got that nice white tallow right through the middle of it. And you just slice it like a pie. I slice that 2 pounds of beef into 4 slices. I take my half pound, I mix it up with my eggs, and away we go. I was doing full fat cream. I've cut back on that a little bit. That seemed to be a little bit of a trigger for me. I can, I could just about drink a glass of full fat cream and just feel just wonderful. But I thought maybe I fluctuated up a couple pounds. Um, so yeah, go hard, go extreme. Beef, butter, bacon, and eggs for 30 days. And I use the Element electrolytes, get some Redmond's real salt, uh, throw it in I have kind of a congenital, like, family cramping thing. Muscle cramps, leg cramps, all my life. My mother, my sister, and so the cramping got pretty extreme in the early days, and that could have talked a lot of people out of it, honestly. And so it was a challenge for me to balance my electrolytes. And I've kind of come to the conclusion, if I take enough magnesium to be right on the edge of this is going to make me run to the bathroom. That's about how much magnesium I need to to really be maintained and not have a cramping issue. Um, and so those are some things that you're going to come across in those first 30 days. Don't let those things scare you out of it. Would be my advice. And fight through it, and take I'll take I've got Redmond's real salt in a little container. And if I get up in the middle of the night with a cramp, I'll take a scoop of that and throw it in my mouth and wash it down with my water, and when you're in keto, excess salt, I mean, you'll just pee it out. It's not going to do anything bad to your body, and so through the whole thing, my blood pressure is just been great. Um, all my numbers are right on, except the lipids. But I did do the advanced lipid panel with the particle sizes. My LDL on this last one was I think 22.5 in size, and you know whatever that means. I mean, that's the largest one that I've seen. They say over 20 is what you should be, and mine was 22.5. So that's hot, large particle. Um, and and so um, yeah. Back to the advice thing. I think uh, staying strict. The artificial sweeteners. I know Dr. Westman. He likes to say, I mean, you got to have your sweet tea. How can we live without our sweet tea? And so they have artificially sweetened tea down south. But if you can handle giving up the artificial sugars, I found that got me out of the cravings the fastest, I believe.
Yeah, I think I'd be the same. You know, as soon as I get any sweet taste, it's just like, okay, I want more sweet taste.
Yeah. and
Mm.
and I'm it's amazing how your palate will change. Like, I don't like the sweet taste now. It seems like that's going to do something to me. And so um I do some dairy, and kefir is something that I have a taste for, and most people would. I remember eating plain yogurt and thinking, man, that's sick. Back in the day, and now it's like I can take a spoonful of plain yogurt. It's no that's calm compared to kefir. You take a swig of kefir, and you're drinking something sour. Um, but you know that's my palate now. And my water. I've got my little Game of Trees bottle here, but it's an element and 5 drops of iodine, the non-flavored element. So if I'm drinking plain water, I'm like, this doesn't taste right. I got to taste that iodine, I got to taste that salt. And so just your whole palate changes.
So, Kevin, can you tell us about your YouTube channels and how we can find you?
Yeah, I'm most active on Instagram, Kevin Ham, Game of Trees. And yeah, I'll share various personal things there. I've shared different diet things there. I'm mostly the board certified master arborist there. So if you have an interest in trees or anything, I share a lot of interesting little reels, and I've got a good following there. I'm right around 40,000, 38,000, I think, on Instagram. And on YouTube, we're just about to cross the 40,000 uh, on YouTube. Game of Trees, at Game of Trees, and that's mostly we'll post once a week there with a long form video, and then a lot of shorts of various little things, and some of the same stuff I do on Instagram. Talking about some you know, piece of fungus on the ground, and what that might mean to your tree. Um, and then my personal page on YouTube is the Ageless Arborist. And so if you want to follow my keto story, if anything I've said, say, oh, that's kind of like me. I'll have some of my details. I'm pretty transparent about my labs. I'll be sharing my VO2 max on there here, whatever happens today. So there's a lot of transparency there with my labs. If you're interested in seeing if you're an LMHR, I've got a lot of stuff there about that. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's where you can find me.
awesome. So I'll link to all those in the show notes.
Yeah, thank you.
Kevin, really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Dave, and keep up the great work.